you can use any day you like to glorify God. And so if that's going to bring people to come to hear the gospel because we're talking about his birth, then so be it. We'll do it every time. It's about Jesus. Worship him any day of the week and don't judge other people for what they do. The first of all church councils is the Council of Jerusalem, which ultimately is going to lead to the opening up of the gospel to the world, to the nations. Paul and Barnabas are appointed to go there from Antioch, kind of representing Antioch. Paul, when he speaks, is not going to speak so much about theology, although he was a brilliant theologian. But he basically, and so in Peter, they're basically going to say what God has done. Look, guys, look at what God is doing. God is saving the Gentiles. It's bigger than what you imagine. It's interesting because it goes on when Paul, when he wrote Galatians, it might have been written before this council. So when he's talking about the law, you guys are back on the law. It may have been one of the things that were leading up to the council because he doesn't mention the council in Galatians. No, verse 3. Therefore, being sent on their way by the church, they were passing through both Phoenicia and Samaria, describing in detail the conversion of the Gentiles and were bringing great joy to the believers, the brethren. So they're coming down. They're kind of up north of Israel, where Antioch is. They're coming down through where Lebanon is. They're coming down south, and as they come, they're meeting believers, the other believers, congregations that have started, and they're telling them all what God was doing, and people are they're rejoicing. But it's Jerusalem that's going to count. Verse 4. When they arrived at Jerusalem, they were received by the church and the apostles and the leaders, and they reported to them all that God had done with them. But certain ones of the sect of the Pharisees who had believed stood up, saying, "It is necessary to circumcise them and to direct them to observe the law of Moses." Interesting thing there. Notice what it says. Certain of them who were Pharisees. What's it saying? Some of the first believers were Pharisees. We think always Pharisee bad, and they're always bad, hypocrites. No, a lot of them were. But there were some here, the believers here, and they went off, but they were actually Christian believers, Pharisees. Pharisee doesn't, when we say Pharisee today, it means, oh, you Pharisee, you're saying you hypocrite. But Pharisee, originally the real word for Pharisee is the word perushim. Try it. That's a Hebrew word, perushim. You know what I mean? It means the separated ones. Because the Pharisees started out by they were seeing sin all around them, compromise, worldliness, believers or Jewish people apostatizing with the Greeks, and they said, no, we're separating. That was good. The problem is that, what happens is you might do something good, but then it's easy to get prideful about what you just did. In other words, some people, for instance, I would say, well, I couldn't understand that. It happens in the kingdom all the time. People start getting into prayer, and they're getting into the Spirit, and all of a sudden they're judging everybody else as not being as Spirit-filled as they are. Or somebody gets into a certain doctrine, they judge everybody else as not being as grounded in the Word as they are. That's human nature. That's pride. Has nothing to do with God. It's just using the things of God. Well, that's what happened with the Pharisees. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Nicodemus was a Pharisee. He was good. There were Joseph of Arimathea. All of them. In fact, Paul was a Pharisee, and he got saved, but God used all that Paul had, all that knowledge, all that rabbinical knowledge to bless you in the letters and the epistles and the teachings. He blessed you. See, the Pharisees were those who actually believed the Bible. The problem is they added to it. The Sadducees didn't believe a lot of the Bible. So the Pharisees were the closest to what would become Christians in that sense if they got saved. So there was a real link there. So the Pharisees, the quote, believing Pharisees, well, they were believing, they now are saying, okay, yeah, believe in Jesus, but you have to still observe the law. And it's understandable, guys, because we can judge them, but they've been going for thousands of years, basically, but God gave them the law, the Torah. It's a very big thing to say, okay, we're not doing that anymore, because Jesus didn't say just stop doing that. So it's a very big thing. You got to understand to say, wait a minute, is this right to just throw away all that? But here it is. You've got people go off at the same time. They have lost their focus. Still, the focus should be, they should be rejoicing that the Gentiles are coming in, that the world is coming in. They should be rejoicing about that. People tend to go off, and people tend to have their own pet doctrinal axes to grind and issues. And it's so easy because that's the nature of man, to go off the track. And it happens in the Lord all the time. There are times I've had people saying, how come you worship on Sundays? You shouldn't be worshiping on Sundays. Well, sometimes that comes from messianic things. Well, because Sunday wasn't that day. Or some others say, well, Sunday's the mark of the beast. I said, guys, really? Shouldn't be. Why do you worship on Sunday? Well, for one, Messiah rose on Sunday, so he must have been okay with it. Secondly, the first believers worshiped the Lord on the Sabbath, Friday night, like tonight. They also did Saturday, and they did Sunday because it was the day he rose, the Lord's day. Both. But since when did Sunday become not Jewish? Sunday's the first day mentioned in the Bible, in the Hebrew Scriptures. In the beginning, day one, that was Sunday. I never get that. We shouldn't be worshiping the Lord. I don't care if it's Wednesday morning, you worship the Lord every day. Who are you to tell somebody not to worship the Lord? We shouldn't glorify him. What should you be doing? Sinning? Don't do anything holy on Sunday. That's crazy, and it's just about as crazy. Listen, I understand some people where there are about, we certainly say it is not historical. There's nothing pointing that Jesus actually was born on December 25th. Fine. You're free to do or not do what you want. And the world has gone off. We know all that. But you can use any day you like to glorify God. And so if that's going to bring people to come to hear the gospel because we're talking about his birth, then so be it. We'll do it every time. It's about Jesus. Worship him any day of the week and don't judge other people for what they do. How could we ever be against somebody worshiping on any day of the week? But it shows you how easy people get off. Sometimes people will say, why don't you wear a yarmulke? Really? Because so it'll be Jewish. Really? Did Jesus wear a yarmulke? If he needs our help to be Jewish, then he's not the Messiah. It doesn't matter. Do what you want. Here's the debate here. There are a number of things here that are happening. Remember, a lot of the believers, they're taking for granted that the law is from God. Well, it is from God, but they're taking for granted that this is going to be part of the rest of the time because God gave it to them. It's a heavy thing to step out, and thus God used Paul to say something that was so radical back then. There are those today, the issue of the law, it comes up today, and in Messianic circles and beyond that, among many non-Jewish people, that, listen, you have to be under the law. You got to keep the law. Well, listen, there's two extremes here. One is if you tell people they have to be under the law, that's an extreme, and that's not of God. On the other hand, if you tell people that they can't do things like observe the Sabbath, that's fine. Or do anything does not go against the new covenant that is in the Spirit, that's fine. We have this thing called freedom. You're free to do and you're free not to do. But whatever you do, as Paul said, do it to the Lord. You want to keep one day above the rest? Do it to the Lord. You want to keep no day, any holiday? You do it to the Lord. Don't judge each other over these things. God's not looking at the day of the Lord. He's looking at your heart with the Lord. Hi, I'm Jonathan Cahn, and I hope you were blessed with the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Feel free to share your reactions with your comments and how you were blessed, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.